Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on randirhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or progressivevoices.com now.
It's just amazing. It is a completely and totally amazing thing that we're watching, an America that always stood for, the shining city on the hill, that stood for the middle class, that stood for people who, were yearning to breathe free, that were looking for better lives, that were trying to join the middle class if they hadn't been there, and that, leave a better world to their kids. And it was all about making things and building things and being civic minded and we're turning into an oligarchy backed by military power? Really? This is the direction that we want to watch ourselves go in? Listen, this is the crazy thing about Tillerson. He said he favors doing business in countries that offer political stability, even if this stability is achieved through authoritarianism. He says, we're really thinking about, what is it going to be in 15, 20 years from now? And so what are the conditions in some of these countries likely to be? So his corporation maintains a political intelligence and analysis department at its headquarters in Irving, Texas, staffed by former government officials that tries to predict the stability of countries. It says, we don't interfere in the politics of host countries, but the right kinds of dictators can be more predictable and profitable than democracies. They said they've had more luck making money in Equatorial Guinea, a small oil-rich West African dictatorship that's been ruled for decades by a single family, than they have in Alaska, because they say raucous electoral politics has made it hard for Exxon to nail down stable deal terms. And so they're going to have an authoritarian here if they're going to nail down stable deal terms. And they hate the State Department. He despises it, and so of course they put him in charge of it. Does anybody remember who his predecessor was? Remember that guy Lee Raymond? He had that big neck beard and really foul teeth that made Rudy Giuliani look like he just stepped out of a Colgate ad. Oh God, that was the guy who, during the Exxon Valdez, where we were, where Dawn first became the dishwashing liquid that cleaned off oily birds, and we found that useful in the Deepwater Horizon disaster too. I mean, really? Garrett in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
So, I'm just pretty heartbroken. A couple of weeks ago, you were talking about, when this disaster happened, how we may be a great country, but we're not a good country anymore.
Well, yeah.
I always try to debate these people and, sometimes argue with them. And somebody I grew up with, known for years, I just asked him, I said, do you see what is going on? Are you paying attention? And to my face, he told me that he was glad that Russia got involved. I just had to walk away.
Okay, so how can that person even believe or say out loud that they love this country, or that they care about American values, or that they believe we're a sovereign nation, and that how could they possibly call themselves a patriot? We've been
I don't think they can.
This is an attack, okay? And it was an attack on our government, and the idea that they don't care that we were attacked and don't want to retaliate. Listen, here's the thing. When this guy gets sworn in and Rex Tillerson becomes Secretary of State and all this, what's going to happen is they're going to immediately move to take the sanctions off Russia, which is going to make Vlad feel like he won the presidency, number one. And number two, the talk about getting rid of NATO, that was a signal to Vlad also from Trump, that he can invade all the neighbors he wants. We just don't care. In fact, it might be better for ExxonMobil. It might be better for, some oil and gas producers. It might be better for other businesses to have an authoritarian government in some of these democratic countries in the Baltics.
we're just in deep trouble. I don't even know where to start other than just communicating. I mean, we have to break the
Here's how you start. Here is how you start, okay? If somebody goes down that road, I don't care about Russia or I'm glad Russia hacked, then ask them, how can you say you're a patriot? How can you say you care about American sovereignty when a thug, a freaking, murderer, guy that, murders people, a guy that invades his neighbors, hacked us and you don't care? How could you say that you're a patriot? How could you say you care about this country?
Yeah, they just can't. They just can't.
Well, you just tell them. You tell them. This has nothing to do with the election. We were attacked. This is cyber war. This is a crime. And then you can, if they're at least somewhat lucid, ask them, how are you sure? How can you be clear that the Russians won't blackmail any of the Republicans because they hacked the RNC too? They didn't release anything, but they have it. How could you be sure that your president and the legislature and the House members and, all these people, how could you be sure that they're not blackmailable? How can you? Donna in Cabin John, Maryland?
Yep, it's Donna. How are you?
Good.
This is totally off the Russian stuff, but it just broke my heart when I saw it yesterday. I don't know if you know anything about me or remember, but I'm a big animal rights advocate, and I read yesterday in Mother Jones magazine that the Trump administration has hired a gentleman who is the director of an organization called Protect the Harvest. And this organization hates anything to do with animal welfare or animal rights. And I have been a big fighter of puppy mills, and this guy fights any puppy mill legislation, that makes it better for the dogs. I mean, we're talking about dogs. We're not even talking about farm animals, which to me is just as important. This is what we're dealing with. And the founder of this organization was on the short list to become the Department of Interior, which thankfully he didn't make. But, well, I don't know, thankfully, because I don't know how much worse that the woman is. But he is a rancher. And, I mean, they don't even want us to take out the elephants in the circuses. Nothing. They don't want the animals. The humans have it bad. The animals and the environment. It's done. It's totally done. If this is the kind of
it's not just animals. I mean, if we deny global warming and start to become a petrol state here, and they go into they go into the Department of Energy and they kill all the clean energy what do you call them, programs that have taken down the price of delivering wind power. It's like 50 cents a watt now or something like that. And we just become a petrol. Forget nothing's going to grow on this planet. Nothing's going to live.
I just was in a fetal position yesterday. I've worked so many years to fight the puppy mills that, I'm sorry, I'm hitting this again. But I feel like we're going back. And I have a dog that's from a puppy mill. And just the crap that, we've had to go through, and these dogs and cats have had to go through. And it's just going to get worse before it gets better again. I mean, I just feel like we're taking another 20 steps back.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing. And if it's the animals that make you, sit up and take notice, then let it be. Let it be the animals. But honestly, the planet itself, the whole entire planet, is in danger. It's in peril with these people. It's, everything from freedom and democracies and, spreading it, trying equal protection under law, freedom of the press, the ability to actually grow something on your parched land, water, clean water, accessibility to clean water. It's all on the table. All of it.
Clear. 4, 2. takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Are you doing the herky jerky? Are you doing it? You need to do it. It's so good. You know I love jerky. Jerky is the official snack of the Randi Rhodes Air Force, and herky jerky is my favorite jerky of all time. It is incredible. It comes in elk, buffalo, beef, and bacon. Oh yes, bacon. Hot, mild, or 14 other incredible flavors. And right now, get $6 off your order of $50 or more. This bacon is a slab that you can put on BLTs. Use it in salads or just munch it right out of the bag. The sticks are perfect size for your purse. Just take them anytime you need some protein, work, school, camping, or just stick them in your bag and eat them anytime you need a protein pickup. It tastes like heaven. It's the right amount of spice. It comes in 14 other delicious flavors, and these aren't 3-ounce frou-frou bags either. These are big, beautiful, nearly 1-pound bags of fresh, delicious, perfectly spiced jerky that bites and chews like homemade jerky should. So do it. I do it. You should do the herky jerky. Go to herkyjerky.com, $6 off your order of 50 or more.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
He's much more than a business executive. I mean, he's a world-class player.
Donald Trump picks ExxonMobil CEO for Secretary of State.
She has a record of wanting to drill for more gas and oil and wanting to cut more timber from our public lands.
Potential Interior Department head wants to sell off public lands. Trump transition team's chilling request for names of Energy Department scientists working on climate policy, plus federal aid for Flint, Michigan, finally clears the U.S. Senate.
All of those stories and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Welcome to the Trump administration, where climate change is fake and wrestling is real.
I wish I had a good joke here. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, ironically enough, of all of the climate deniers that Donald Trump appears to be putting into his cabinet, the one who isn't a climate denier is actually the head of ExxonMobil.
I know. Weird, isn't it?
Yep.
Donald Trump has picked Rex Tillerson, the CEO of ExxonMobil, the world's largest oil company, for his Secretary of State. Tillerson has close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin, receiving Russia's Order of Friendship in 2013 after ExxonMobil signed a $300 billion deal to drill for oil in Russia's Arctic. That deal has been on hold due to U.S. economic sanctions against Russia, which are still in place for now. Exxon is also under investigation for spending millions of dollars over decades lying to its shareholders and the public about its own scientific research confirming man-made climate change. Tillerson and Exxon now publicly profess to accept climate science, but in a 2012 interview with the Council on Foreign Relations, Tillerson dismissed the impacts.
We believe those consequences are manageable. Okay, so we will adapt to this. Changes to weather patterns that move crop production areas around, we'll adapt to that. It's an engineering problem, and it has engineering solutions.
Exxon has blocked all action on climate change in practice, pretty much anything to keep the world addicted to Exxon's product.
So he agrees that climate change is real. He agrees that it is changing our climate, but he says no need to worry. We'll just adapt to it.
Pretty much.
Important thing is we keep burning his product.
Exactly. Trump will also reportedly nominate Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers of Washington State to head up the Interior Department, which manages the nation's public lands, national parks, and natural resources. McMorris Rogers follows the Republican Party line of denying climate science, advocates for the sale of public lands, and increased drilling, timber harvesting, and other resource extraction. She has a 4% lifetime voting record from the League of Conservation Voters. Senate Democrats have vowed vowed to fight these appointments.
Yeah, good luck with that, Senate Democrats.
Meanwhile, the Trump transition team has sent a disturbing and unusually detailed questionnaire to the Department of Energy, seeking the names of all scientists and career civil servants who attended UN climate talks and worked on climate change initiatives. That's raising concerns that the Trump team is gathering information for people and programs to target for elimination or retaliation. Trump's team also requested information on scientific data sets, websites, and detailed funding of the agency's research on renewable energy innovation.
I got to tell you, that data point is absolutely chilling, McCarthy-esque, and probably even more disturbing than all of these climate deniers in his cabinet.
American scientists are suggesting to their colleagues that they set up duplicate mirror sites for research databases in other countries. All of this comes just days after a Trump transition advisor, Bob Walker, claimed that the new Trump administration will eliminate NASA's climate change research funding because he said climate science research has become so politicized.
Oh, do you think? I wonder who did that.
Finally, some good news. The Obama Interior Department has banned mountaintop removal coal mining along the tops of 600 miles of mountain ridges across 4 counties in eastern Tennessee.
Good news for now, anyway.
In more good news, in last-minute votes before adjourning for the holidays, the Republican majority in Congress finally allowed passage of a water infrastructure bill that includes funding to help the city of Flint, Michigan, replace its lead-contaminated water system. 3 years into the crisis, Senate Republicans also finally agreed to fund health benefits for retired coal miners for another 4 months.
Only 4 months.
Right.
They refused what Democrats had wanted to extend those benefits to coal miners for another year. Why do the Republicans hate coal miners? Well, GOP war on coal, I guess. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us and follow us on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Well, I'm working in a coal mine, going down, 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 working in a coal mine, whoop, about to slip down.
This has been the Green News Report on the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Okay, so I want to play you something. This is the president of the Philippines, okay? His name's Duterte, and he's a murdering thug also.
Hitler massacred 3 million Jews.
Wait.
Hitler massacred 3 million Jews. Now, there's a 3 million drug addicts. There are. I'd be happy to slaughter them.
Okay, let me translate because his English is bad. He said Hitler killed 3 million Jews. The Philippines has 3 million drug addicts. I'd be happy to slaughter them.
At least if Germany had Hitler, the Philippines would have. But, my victims, I would like to be all criminals to finish the problem of my country and save the next generation.
I would like to be like Hitler and get rid of the criminals and save the next generation of my country. Okay, I'm sure you've heard that before because I know I've played it before. This is new, and of course, Rodrigo Duterte does not, his English is a little choppy, it's a little broken, a little Tagalog-y. But here's what he said today. What you're listening for is his confession. He said today, he announced today, this is like some secret recording. He announced today that he personally killed drug addicts when he was the mayor of his home city. He would ride on the motorcycle. This is how they kill drug addicts in the Philippines under Mr. Duterte's, new presidency. They go to, neighborhoods where drug addicts are known to, to hang around because there's, people selling and there are places to do the drugs, just like here in West Virginia. So Duterte goes on his little motorcycle and his police officers go to these places and they just gun down the drug addicts. So today, he said he had done it too. He personally did it. He said, I would go looking for trouble. I would get on my motorcycle and, he said I would go looking for trouble. And I used to do it personally just to show the guys, the police officers, that if I can do it, why can't you? Now, the Philippines has killed thousands of people this way since this man became president. So here he is saying, I did it. I get on my motorcycle. And I was saying, hey, if I could do it, you could do it too, to show the police that it's okay to kill these people.
I must admit that a third of the killings really happened during police encounters. And I know it because I'm not trying to pull my own chair. But in Davao, I used to do it personally, just to show to the guys that if I can do it, why can't you? And I go around Davao with a motorcycle, with a big bike, and I would just patrol the streets and looking for trouble also. They say that if I'm afraid to stop because of the human rights and guys from including Obama, sorry, I'm not about to do that.
He said exactly what I told you. He said, listen, if I would ride around on the motorcycle and I would go looking for trouble and I would do it personally and I would show the police, if I can't do it, why can't you? And he said, I'd go around in Davao with a motorcycle, with a big bike around, and I would just patrol the streets. And I was really looking for a confrontation so I could kill somebody, so I could show the police it was okay. And he said, I don't want to hear this talk about human rights. Like from Obama. I can't do that. Now, where was he when he was making these remarks? There's something, this is why we're taking a couple days off. We have to do maintenance around here. So we know there's no video today. We know. But he's at a dinner. He's at a dinner. There are people seated at tables and he's up at a podium saying this and people are staring at him at a dinner. Now, why do I bring him up? Because Trump's building in the Philippines, Trump Tower, Manila, is a deal that Trump did with him. With him. With that guy. So now you look at all these people that say, hey, listen, Trump's saying, I don't care about our CIA. I don't have any respect for them. You read The Guardian, it says fears of retaliation rose within the U.S. intelligence agencies over a tense weekend that saw Trump publicly dismiss not only the assessment but the basic competence of the intelligence apparatus. He said when the president-elect's transition team is attempting to discredit the entire intelligence community, it's never been more important for the intelligence community and Congress to guard against possible political pressure or retaliation against the intelligence analysts. Now, why would Trump want to retaliate or purge our intelligence career professionals? Why? Because, ExxonMobil has its own intelligence apparatus. It has its own State Department. It's its own sovereign nation. It's in more countries than we are. And Trump doesn't want to hear, look at that. And Trump doesn't want to hear anything from our intelligence agencies. Trump said, the biggest lie over the weekend, that why should he listen to the intelligence agencies when they're the ones that got it wrong on the Iraq war? But the ones that got it wrong on the Iraq War were not the intelligence career professionals, because you remember Richard Clark when he testified. You remember Richard Clark saying, we were trying to tell the president, we were running around, everyone's hair was on fire, was the expression back in 2003. Everyone's hair was on fire. Everybody wanted to tell the president. Everybody knew, what was coming. This was about 9/11. And then I personally talked to the weapons inspectors. I talked to Scott Ritter, who was the chief weapons inspector for UNSCUM. What an unfortunate name. And I talked to Hans Blix, who was, working for the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. They all said publicly, there are no weapons. There's no there. It was Dick Cheney. It was John Bolton. It was Condoleezza Rice on the TV, all saying, we don't want this smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud. There has been no doubt that Saddam Hussein has reconstituted his nuclear program. Who recommended Rex Tillerson? Dick Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, and the former National Security Advisor to W. Hayden. Don't you see what they're doing? The career professionals who are literally, working their asses off, tracing back everything from cyber activity and hacking and the movements of various airplanes and bombers and missiles and working with covert operators on the ground who risk their lives every day in the most far-flung places on the planet to, identify anybody that would try to be doing us harm. Today there's news that we killed 75% of the ISIS fighters. You think Obama's ever going to get credit for that? No. People are going to forget that. This little news story today that we got 75% of the ISIS fighters, and when Trump comes in, he's going to go, 75% of the ISIS fighters are gone now, the other 25% are coming out, and thank you, I told you it happened quickly. And these idiots will believe it. They will believe it the whole time as we're marching toward an oligarchy backed by a military, which is what Duarte has. This is what these authoritarian dictatorships in Africa are, where Exxon likes to do business because they find them very stable when you have a dictator. Eddie in San Jose.
Hi, Randy. Hi. Duterte sounds a lot like the kind of guy ExxonMobil regularly does business with.
Well, it's not ExxonMobil. This is Donald Trump.
Trump
is building. It's almost done. It's called Trump Tower Manila in the Philippines, and Duarte is the dictator there. So they're in business together, these two.
Well, you were actually reading, I think, last hour from, was it Gusher, the article by Steve Call in the New Yorker magazine?
New Yorker, yes.
Yeah, from 2012. And the key point
is the article I was reading from is from December 11th, 2016.
Oh, okay. He did write back when he released the book, I think, in 2012. He wrote in the New Yorker as well. And I was reading in that book, in that story, that in Chad, the U.S. Embassy actually complained that ExxonMobil wasn't talking to them, and ExxonMobil replied, well, the U.S. aid budget for Chad is only $3 million. We've invested $2.4 billion in a pipeline from Cameroon to Chad. We don't have to talk to the State Department.
Exactly.
So this is pure money.
And you want to know something? You know what USAID did for Chad? USAID decided that if we were going to, if they were going to do some sort of a deal in Chad, and they were going to, do an oil drilling deal, that the proceeds had to go to the people, not to these authoritarian governments, and that they had to go to the people, meaning build roads, build schools, clean water, and they could only, Exxon came, I forget which company was going to do that deal. And Exxon said, screw that. I'll give you $500 billion in cash to you, Mr. Dictator. Screw your people. And that's what happened.
Well, that deal that Tillerson and ExxonMobil signed with Russia is worth $500 billion to drill in
That's
the Arctic.
another one, but
Yeah.
so you're going to confuse people because you're moving from place to place in the
sorry.
world. So we were just talking about a little poor country in Africa where the oil companies were supposed to invest in Chad because all of a sudden they found oil in West Africa. And, I remember, what was that movie about the blood? It was called Blood Diamond. And I remember there was a scene in that movie, I think it was Leonardo DiCaprio, where they found a diamond in one of the lagoons. And they said, we just found diamonds here. And they said, oh my God, at least they didn't find oil because those places get decimated once they find what they're looking for. So anyway, that's what happened in Chad. They found this oil and an oil company was going to come in and they were going to, build this pipeline out, because it's landlocked. So they were going to build it out to Cameroon to get it out to sea. Okay, fine. But the deal was that the money had to go to the people. They were going to build them schools. They were going to build them roads. They were going to build them clean water, these kinds of things, so that they could build their country back after being colonized. And so Exxon said, oh, screw that deal. And that was coming from USAID. Screw that deal. Let me give $500,000 just to the dictator himself. $500,000. Let me give $500 million to the dictator himself. Screw his people. I don't care about people. I care about return to my shareholders. I need a stable place, and the best way to get a stable place is to pay the authoritarian off. He'll keep he'll kill the people. He'll do whatever he needs to do to the people. We need some place where we can work with the dictator.
Right.
And that's what happened there. Now, you look at Russia. Okay, Russia, he made a deal, Tillerson did. This is a $500 billion deal to partner with Rosneft, which is one of the giant, state-run. And the problem is when oil companies are state-owned, okay, there's not really a big chance to get a profit. That's why ExxonMobil doesn't like state-owned, oil and gas company, oil and gas places. That's why they go to places with dictators like Cameroon or like to Papua New Guinea or to Chad or to, these little, or Kurdistan. They'd rather go there. They don't like state-owned resources because there's little chance for profit because the state that it's in is going to get so he makes this deal with Vlad, okay? And he says, Vlad, listen, I'm going to help you drill in a place you never ever thought you could drill before, but there's this place called the Kara Sea, and it's right off Siberia, and I know that there's oil there, but our technology has so far surpassed yours. And because the Arctic and global warming, the ice sheets are getting thinner, we can now get to that oil. But you're going to have to make a deal with me. ExxonMobil, you're going to have to make a deal with me. And Vlad was happy to do it. So they made the deal, and then Vlad decided, America's not looking at me anymore. Guess what? I'm going to take back Ukraine. And so then Obama slapped sanctions on him, and that deal has never happened. And that's what's riding on this. You're talking about a $500 billion oil deal in Russia, which would give, just saying, if I were in court and I were looking to explain motive to a jury, I would say that might be Vladimir Putin's motivation for wanting one over the other to win.
Absolutely. And, this guy, Tillerson, he's not, well, one thing I just heard, it might have been in one of the pieces in one of your homework pages, he's basically forced to retire at age 65. That's company policy.
Right.
So he was looking for something else to do. And if
do you know how he ended up on the radar screen for? Because look at what Donald Trump was looking at for Secretary of State. I mean, he was talking to Mitt Romney. That first of all, I think he talked to Mitt Romney just so he could fuck him and publicly humiliate him. Do you know what I mean?
That's come out that he actually said. Was it Roger Stone was just interviewed? I'd read the story. It's on. I don't look at InfoWars, but he was actually interviewed on InfoWars, and he said the main reason that Trump invited him in to get interviewed was to screw him over.
Yeah, to humiliate him and to make him grovel, and all this and say, am I a fraud now? Now do you think I'm a fraud? Trevor Noah had the best joke about it last night. He said, well, at least he bought him dinner before he fucked him.
Well, really quick.
But wait, let me just finish the thought. So here's how Tillerson ended up on the radar screen. Dick Cheney, Condi Rice, Hayden, and James A. Baker III. They said to Trump, we see you having trouble with a Secretary of State. You should talk to Rex Tillerson.
Well, he's the guy because, and just to finish up, he I don't know if we'll get to it, but Wall Street Journal had a story. They were fracking in Tillerson's backyard in Texas, and he sued the company that was doing the fracking because it was his backyard. He owns a giant, like an 80-acre horse ranch.
NIMBY,
Yeah.
not in my backyard.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Well, the unthinkables happened. We have Donald Trump moving into the White House in 2017. Of course, this move brings extreme uncertainty to our country's financial future. I mean, you got the Don and his crew moving into the White House now, and who knows what they'll do to our economy. When he moves into the White House, everyone needs to get their own financial house in order before the Don and the crew have the time to do some serious economic damage to this country. Now, when it's time for financial security, it's time for gold. So call my friends at ITM Trading. Get a free gold kit. Learn why gold survives every government, every currency, every economic crisis. Gold's always brought its owners security in uncertain times just like this. Call ITM Trading at 1-888-OWN-GOLD. Get expert guidance from their precious metals consultants. They've helped tens of thousands of people navigate this market. They have the best reputation in the industry. Call 1-888-OWN-GOLD, 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
Hello, Progressive Voices Tune-In listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
So now that the election's over and single-payer health care and controlling drug prices took a hit on the state ballots, where do we go from here?
I think all of us are watching this dance happening in Washington as the new president-elect. Isn't that hard to say? The president-elect
it is hard to say.
Is putting together his cabinet, and it looks to be like a rogues gallery of corporate interests, actually. But the reality is, as the Republicans talk about replacing the ACA and Obamacare, and it looks like they're pretty committed to doing that, the only thing that fixes the flaws, we've tried almost everything else in this country already. The only thing that fixes the flaws is to take the program that the majority of Americans already support, which is Medicare, and expand it to everybody. It makes the most sense economically. It doesn't disrupt the system. You'll oftentimes hear people say, we can't go in that direction, it'll be too disruptive. Well, that's not true. Medicare is a publicly financed but privately and publicly delivered kind of medical system. That's what we've needed for a long time. So we have to be very, very assertive. We have to stand and say, all right, if you're determined to replace what we all know has become a very expensive ACA, and we do have problems with the exchanges, what we're not going to allow you to do is repeal that, dump people off insurance without coming forward and saying the best plan that covers everybody, saves us all money, and disrupts the system the least is Medicare for everyone in this country. So we're going to have to go on the offensive in the right direction.
Check out our show at nursetalksite.com and listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on Progressive Voices.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, tail-wagging, backyard-hanging, and, of course, companionship.
And what breed would you say Satchmo is?
I'd have to go with maybe a lavish terrier-hound chihuahua-looking kind of mix.
Tremendous dog.
I'd also like to point out Satchmo's coloring, a white, gray, brown, black brindle, simply marvelous.
It's such a treat to watch a dog like this.
Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive. And now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance, so common with this group.
And finally, the loving face lick.
It's great how he just gets in there and, well, licks.
Fantastic. But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hi, we're back, and everything is possible again. Isn't it beautiful? Well, if you want to keep it this way, buy a stinking podcast. Oh yes, you have to buy a stinking podcast. And you get that at RandiRhodes.com, where we're open all day, all night long. RandiRhodes.com. Get your stinking podcast.
I'm Welton Gaddy. On the next State of Belief Radio, fake news. It dominates social media, and it may well have determined the outcome of an election. Now, the nonprofit watchdog Media Matters is doing something about it. We'll get details from Eric Bollard. Also, Donna Redwing, once called the most dangerous woman in America by the religious right, is stepping down as leader of One Iowa. She'll be with us to share some lessons from a lifetime of LGBTQ and religious freedom activism. And with many years of ministry in an adversarial environment, what lessons and comfort can the Right Reverend Bishop Gene Robinson offer in this troubled time? He'll be with us to discuss hope and faith in an age of Trump. Be sure to visit us at stateofbelief.com and be sure to tune in for Religion and Radio Done Differently. Saturday morning at 10, Sunday morning at 11 Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network.
All things Randy at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, let's go to Mike in Chicago.
Yeah, Andy, I know some of your LGBT listeners might not be familiar with the intelligence community, but I think you know better than to act like the CIA is just the exact same as other agencies, military intelligence, the CIA, NSA even. The CIA is quite different. They don't have the respect that the others do. I hope you're aware of that.
No.
Oh, you're not? Well, I mean, I look, some people haven't read as much, but...
some people what?
You know, people like you, maybe you're an armchair expert on America's intelligence agencies. The CIA is not the most respectable agency. I think you're aware of what they've done over the last 8 years with the Arab Spring, which you probably thought was real cute. You probably like seeing the hipsters in Egypt in the tight little jeans. You thought the whole thing was real cute.
So you watch too much Homeland is your problem. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and Randy, did you know that in Paris, the Eiffel Tower, did you know that they are turning the lights off tonight in solidarity for Aleppo? And what's your thought on that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
It's the saddest place on the planet right now. It's horrendous. It's absolutely.
So we're supposed to take the side of the jihadists, not the government.
No.
So we're supposed to be in solidarity with the jihadists.
Don't you understand that Russia did this? Don't you get that?
Did what? Liberate the city?
Destroyed Aleppo, sided with Bashar al-Assad. That's his ally.
He sided with the secular leader.
We were trying to arm the rebels, and then Russia bombed the rebels. Russia didn't go after ISIS. Russia went after the rebels who were trying to overthrow Assad. Okay, this whole.
And they wanted
do you remember how this? Do you remember how this whole thing started?
All the rebels.
Do you remember how? Do you remember how everything in Syria started?
Yeah, there was a massacre. The government did a little massacre. I'm aware of what they did.
Of protesters.
Yeah.
Right, and Russia decided that it would run to the aid of Bashar al-Assad. Russia is the one who's bombing Aleppo. Russia is the one that made that place into rubble. There people are on Periscope and Facebook tweeting and saying, this is probably my last communication. You're watching a genocide, and we're doing it live, and you can see us dying. You can watch it. That's the Russians. That is the new best friend of the president-elect. That's his guy.
We are going to do business with Assad.
That's his guy. That's Putin. That's what Putin just did.
We are going to do business with Assad. We can do business with Assad.
Nobody wanted to do business with Assad. We were supplying the rebels with arms. We were supplying the rebels with military.
I'm talking about the Trump administration.
The Trump administration loves Bashar al-Assad because Bashar al-Assad is friends with Putin, and any friend of Putin's a friend of his.
There's some truth in that, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. There is some truth to that. I mean, he wants to explain Syria to me? You want to explain it to me? Seriously. You want to tell me about the Russians, and he didn't know? How could he not know the Russians are doing this? Let me tell you one thing. You're going to miss Obama when he's gone for this one reason. We didn't get involved in that war. We would have been there right now. Oh my God, this would have been another 9 years. Another 9 years on the ground. No, this is Russia's war. Russia is doing this to the people of Aleppo and to the entire country of Syria. Anywhere where there were rebels, anywhere where there were people who were protesting the dictator, Bashar al-Assad, any place where there were people protesting their dictator, that's where the Russians bombed. That's where the people died. What do you think I've been telling you? They love an authoritarian dictator. They love them. It creates what they think is the more stable environment for business. Why do you think I'm showing you all this with the dictators and the authoritarians? Why? You still can't connect the dots? Damn it, I'm like doing everything for you. Tamara in Joplin, Missouri?
Hey, Randy. Tillerson is the jackass that covered up the molestation of boys in the Boy Scouts.
What are you talking about?
The little boys were being molested in the Boy Scouts for decades, and Tillerson covered it up.
No, he didn't.
He was running.
What are you reading? Where do you get this?
The reason I know it is because Pima County sheriffs in Tucson, Arizona were busted for it. In fact, my son's troop...
Jose in Silicon Valley.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
I wanted to talk about the sociopathic tendencies of our president-elect and all these dictators that he's supporting.
Yeah.
Not only are they narcissistic, they're sociopathic.
It's not just that he's supporting them. He does business with them. He loves them. He would rather do business in Dubai and Saudi Arabia and authoritarian countries, the Philippines with Duarte. I mean, now you have Tillerson on the record saying that he doesn't need the State Department. He would rather go find a dictator in a country like Cameroon, and he would rather. Now, why did they go into Africa in the first place? They went there because too much of the oil reserves were controlled by the state, like Iraq and Iran and all that.
Right.
So they started looking in all these far-flung places. That's how they ended up in Africa. That's how they ended up doing, what they did in Chad and in Cameroon and in Papua New Guinea, these very, very poor African countries.
These people, they don't believe in democracy. They don't believe
of course
in
they don't believe in democracy.
They don't believe, and now one of them is our president-elect. And he's surrounding himself with people who are just like him. It takes one to know one. And he's surrounding himself with other sociopathic and narcissistic, mentally ill human beings with philosophy. I
don't know that they're mentally ill. They're corporatists. They are oligarchs.
In my opinion,
there's a difference between between being mentally ill and being an oligarch. Okay, one is somebody who only cares about money, and maybe his illness is greed. Maybe his illness is, wanting to be the king of his own little sovereign nation. No head shall be higher than mine. Maybe it's a lot of narcissism. It's not mental illness. Mental illness gets a really bad rap when you say that men who make an enormous amount of money through great crimes are somehow mentally ill.
No. I think they're philosophically and morally.
Okay, we lost you. Had a meeting. Paul in Woodinville, Washington.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Yeah. So the worst part about this to me is not what Trump and his cohorts, cronies are doing. This is what we expect out of them. I mean, we're going to fuck you in the ass and tell you we're helping you. We're trying to help you. It's the response of the victims that are going, oh, yeah, I see that. You're just trying to get... Not that there's any connection between what they want to do and making anybody's life better. And what is kind of interesting is that we talked about all of this. It's an angry election. You think, well, who's so freaking angry? Well, a lot of people in red states, but most of the way your life has to do with your state, the state that you live in.
That's
and
right.
What a crappy state it is.
That's right. And yesterday I was trying to show you, that the goal of this administration is to turn the entire United States into Dixie. And I just read you a little snippet. It's in yesterday's homework section, and it's called How Trump Wants to Turn the United States, the whole United States into Dixie. And they want to nationalize the economic plans that the South employ. What's so interesting about that is, of course, the South, they don't have unions. It's a race to the bottom for labor, for, what you could pay labor. The cheapest labor is, that's why, they run there. And how do the South get their businesses to come there in the first place, knowing that their population isn't the most educated population and their roads aren't the greatest roads and their, the things around that. So they say, all right, you know what? We'll give you a big tax incentive to come here. So the people pay their taxes in the red states. The taxes then go to the corporations in order to lure them into the states. Right. And then they end up with crappy schools because their tax money isn't going for their interests. It's going for corporate interests. So they end up with crappy schools, crappier roadways, and like a finite amount of jobs for $7.25 an hour.
Exactly. And what's so interesting is, for instance, my expatriated state of Michigan, what astounds me is in the 25 years since I left there, the worse things get, the fucking redder it gets.
And let me tell you something else. The northern states, they subsidize the southern states. We pay more for Mississippi and Alabama to survive than Mississippi and Alabama pay for them to survive. And and part of the reason why they don't have enough tax revenue is because they give their governors give the tax revenue to these corporations to try and lure them there.
And what they believe,
they promise these corporations, we will never raise the minimum wage, so come here.
Right, and that's right. And in 21 states, there are 21 states. All of them are red states who still have the federal $7.25 an hour, and it would be lower if they could get away with it.
Right, and what is the minimum wage in Washington, Paul?
We just voted that a month ago. The people of the state of Washington just voted that the statewide minimum wage would be $13.40 an hour, $15 in Seattle.
See?
You see, that's why I said to you before, let them repeal the federal minimum wage. Let them get rid of it. So these assholes in these 21 red states, $7.25 will go down to $4.50 or $4.25 if they can have it.
Absolutely.
Of course they would. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. Because these oligarchs believe that every dollar that you pay in taxes really belongs in their coffers.
Of course they do.
There's no reason for you to have a government of any kind. And like I say, Michigan schools, when I grew up there, we were in the top 10 schools, both K-12 and all the universities. Michigan State, where I attended, University of Michigan, these are worldwide renowned universities. Our school system, now Michigan is slugging it out with Mississippi for last place.
And do you know who did that? That was
Betsy DeVos.
Of course, that's Betsy DeVos's charter school voucher thing, for-profit school model, and it has totally failed. They have the worst education system in the country.
But listen to this, Randy.
And so guess who's going to be in charge of the Department of Education? Betsy DeVos. I mean, it's just amazing. But remember, I don't know. I know you've been listening a really, really long time. Do you remember back when offshoring really became huge? I mean, big. I said to you that I'm seeing something. And what I'm seeing is that the people of China have moved into the middle class for the most part. And the people in India are moving into the middle class for the most part. And there are 1 billion people in China, and there are 1 billion people in India. And we're a lousy little country of 350 million people, and we're about to switch places with them, meaning we're going to be the low-wage workers, and they're going to be the middle-class consumers.
That's exactly right. And what's so funny to me is that the psychology of the victims here, so to speak, is that, like, for instance, my younger brother, he's a big Trump guy. Every time I go home, the roads in Michigan are a complete wreck because the legislature hasn't passed a road bill in, I don't know, like 10 years The last time I was there, they were tearing up a freeway that was just put in, near our house to get to downtown Detroit because there's so many cars going into Detroit. That freeway opened the year we graduated from high school, Randy. And they had to tear it up down to gravel. That's how neglected it was. Can you imagine a city a roadway that's 40 years old for 20 miles had to be completely torn up because it was so neglected? That's what their roads are like. The only roads they fix are federal highways because they get federal highway dollars when the Congress sees fit to reallocate the highways. But I asked my brother, so what's the problem? And I said, you need to raise taxes. He says, plenty of money. They just keep spending it in the wrong places. And I said, Who, Ralph? Who spends it in the wrong places? You got a completely Republican-dominated legislature and governor. Who's to blame now? Who are the liberals that you're going to blame now? Who's spending it in the wrong places?
Not only that, where are they spending it? They're spending it to give it to corporate interests to try and get them there, keeping wages low. So, all is a gift. All is a gift to try and get reelected, to say, well, look, we brought these jobs here. They're low-paying jobs, but they're here. It's such crap.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham. IUECWA 359 workers on strike at Momentive Performance Materials rallied and marched with supporters in Waterford, New York, Tuesday. They've been on strike since the beginning of November when 700 workers walked off their jobs. The company, located in a former GE plant, is attacking health care benefits after 2 consecutive contracts where the workers agreed to concessions. These workers and their families are fighting a rich corporation that would rather use strike-breaking scabs in this holiday season from the Strom Engineering Corporation instead of simply bargaining a fair labor contract. Here are some of the striking workers from a New York State AFL-CIO video posted on YouTube.
My name is Craig. I'm a second-generation chemical worker here at the plant. My father's been here 35 plus years.
Just had a baby 2 weeks ago. Excited about that, but the timing is not that great.
I'm a single mother with 2 kids. My oldest daughter, she's chronic asthmatic.
I think everybody went in knowing that we might have to give up a little bit, and I think a lot of people were probably willing to give up a little bit, but they just took too much. It's too much to ask of us when they've already taken so much over the past 12 years.
They gave us a blanket contract our first year. 8 months into it, they cut our pay. I had my pay cut $7.50 an hour.
All we're asking for is a fair contract, and that's not a lot considering what we do for this plant. You give up your life for this plant. Apparently they don't care about us, and they definitely don't care about our children.
Those are 2 of the biggest issues, retiree health care and our health care.
My Uncle Eddie was the strongest union man.
Eddie was Ed Bucchetti, the first president of IUECWA Local 359. Eddie's 92-year-old widow joined the Momentive picket line to encourage the striking workers.
You all need to stay strong. That's what Eddie would tell you.
Several organizations, from Public Citizen to Common Cause to Move On, will deliver petitions to Trump's hotels Thursday addressing the presidential conflicts of interest created by Trump's businesses. These activists say the conflicts of interest in his role as president and business owner will unavoidably influence public policy making, including U.S. foreign policy. Petitions with 400,000 signatures are being delivered Thursday to Trump properties in Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, Chicago, and New York City. Some of the petitions call for a congressional investigation into Trump's conflicts of interest.
Brought to you by the California Teachers Association. 325,000 educators who know quality public schools make a better California for all of us. Information on how California teachers are shaping a stronger future for our kids is online at cta.org.
Workers Independent News puts workers and their unions on the national radio news airwaves every day. To help keep labor's voice
from
on
the Fox
the air,
News deck on this Monday.
laborradio.org.
WIN is brought to you in part by the Amalgamated Transit Union, the largest labor union representing transit and allied workers in the U.S. and Canada. Online at atu.org. You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit laborradio.org.
The Randi Rhodes Show is brought to you by our partners at ITM Trading. Call them at 1-888-OWN-GOLD and ask for a free gold kit. 1-888-OWN-GOLD.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Fox News Deck on this Monday afternoon, the stunning conclusion from all 17 U.S. national intelligence agencies, all of them in lockstep, that the Russian government did intervene in the U.S. presidential election and is now bringing bipartisan action. The top Republican in the United States Senate, Republican, mind you, says it will investigate whether Russian hackers tried to help Donald Trump win the election. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also said Moscow's meddling cannot be a partisan issue. Mitch McConnell said Russia's reported hacking, its invasion of Crimea, its opposition to NATO all come together to prove Moscow is trying to undermine America.
That's Fox News. Just thought I'd play a little Fox News there. Just a little newsy, foxy newsy thing. All 17 intelligence agencies agree that Russia attacked us. Why they don't use that word, I don't know. But we were attacked. We were cyber hacked. It's cyber war. And these are the way the wars of the future will look. This is what it looks like. So it has happened. And, there are people that just like the result. And they don't give a rat's ass that, that we were attacked by Russia. They just don't care. And so that's their business, but they can't tell me that they love this country, and they can't tell me they're patriotic, and they can't tell me that, they would lay down and die for this country, or that they would, protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's bull crap. That's all gone. That's a load of crap. That's some fantasy thing that they tell themselves. It's not anything that's in their heart, and it's certainly not anything that's in their head, unless they're all suffering from universal Stockholm syndrome, where they've fallen in love with their captor. I don't know, but I will tell you that we have another Goldman Sachs executive joining the Trump administration today. We have Gary Cohen. Oh, yes, Gary Cohen, the president and CEO of Goldman Sachs. He's going to head the National Economic Council, which advises the president on economic policy. So, I hope you're very well invested. I hope you're in the stock market. I hope that you can buy shares of this fabulous Russian oil company that's about to, I doubt it, because it's an oligarchy and they hold these companies very close to their breasts and chests and, other body parts. So, good luck to you. Good luck. But, it's how many people now do we have to have? And what is this? It looks like the Trump administration is sort of like, I don't know, it's like a halfway house for ex-Goldman Sachs employees and people who have beaten their wives. You realize Bannon, the police photographed Bannon's wife after he beat her. So there's evidence, there's photographic proof. It turns out that, Donald Trump, obviously, when Ivana was divorcing him, she said he was brutal to her. He was physically violent and he raped her. And now you got Pudzer, the CEO of Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, who doesn't believe in the minimum wage, doesn't believe in a 40-hour work week, meaning he doesn't believe in paying overtime over 40 hours or anything like that. Apparently his wife also filed a police report years and years ago. And what's so interesting is these women, they years later they come back and they can be told, they can be asked to write a note saying that this never happened, even though there's photographic evidence of at least Pudzer's wife, and there's photographic evidence of Bannon's wife, but they've both, and Ivana also, they've all said it never happened. They were really nice guys. I shouldn't have done anything I did. I made them so mad. I did stuff that, it's my fault. It's pretty sick. And also, Kanye West visited yesterday. Poor Kanye. So it's apparently a halfway house for ex-Goldman Sachs employees, people who have abused their wives, and wayward rappers who are in need of psychiatric help. You know what kills me? The media can't figure out why Kanye was there. Have you gotten an answer from the media about why Kanye might have been at the... It's the man in the high tower now. Are you watching that? Do you watch that? I watch that. You know what that's about? That's about what would have happened to America if we lost World War II. If the Nazis won and the Japanese won. and the country is divided in half. The western portion is the Japanese Republic, and the eastern portion is the Nazi Reich. And there's a man in a high tower. I won't tell you anymore, but we watched that. Anyway, Trump is the man in the high tower. I'm just telling you. And it's all just so fascinating that Kanye comes by Trump Tower yesterday, and the media is like, why Kanye? Why Kanye? I don't understand why Kanye. And, he's casting for The Apprentice, you fools. He's talking to like all these sports figures. He's talking to Kanye West. And what did he talk to? Joe Lewis or something? I mean, he's talking to all these guys. This is not for the administration. This is his other job. Executive producer of the new Celebrity Apprentice starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was casting. That is what he's doing instead of getting intelligence briefings. He doesn't want intelligence briefings. He doesn't trust the briefers. And by the way, for people who think that the CIA is one big lump, it's not. You have your covert officers, and they're the ones that are out there, maybe stirring stuff up in order to get information. And maybe, the analysis of the information they gather is used to do bad things. That could be true. But then you have the analysts. Then you have the cyber people. Then you have, and those guys are not out in the field. Those guys are keeping you safe every freaking day. But Trump does, he's threatening them. And they're also scared of retaliation now. Every one of them. Oh, and the other one is energy, the Department of Energy. He sent out an 87-question questionnaire to everybody working at the Department of Energy, asking them if they had ever attended any conferences or any scientific, anything, conferences, get-togethers, book readings. It's like Hitler. Did you ever read a book about science? Yeah. Anybody that's ever attended any sort of a conference on the science of global warming, which the Energy Department has been run by PhDs for the most part, okay? Guy right now is a PhD. He's a lunatic genius, this guy. Very strange hair. Very founding father. Very Ben Franklin-y. It's kind of like remember when Hillary was Secretary of State and she went through this whole period of founding father hair where she was just slicking it all back and it was just like, woo, very founding father. Yeah, but that's who runs the Energy Department. So the Energy Department, they passed out these questionnaires and they wanted people to name names. Here's your McCarthy now, Ann Coulter. You finally got them. They wanted to name names of people who had attended science conferences on the issue of global warming or CO2 emissions or greenhouse gas or anything like that. Coal. And thank God the Energy Department would not name names. They said they would not fill out these questionnaires. And so finally there was some pushback, and the Trump transition team said it was a rogue guy. He sent it out and we didn't even know. We didn't even know. We had no idea. Now, this is showing you two things. One, they are like McCarthy. And two, they love plausible deniability. And this is another reason why Donald Trump will not take the CIA briefings. He will get his world briefings from ExxonMobil. He will get his world briefings from Betsy DeVos's brother, Eric Prince, the defense contractor. And the CIA and the DIA and the NSA, all these other intelligence agencies, they're sitting there. The ex-employees are saying that there's a revolt inside, just like at the FBI. There's a big revolt in there. And they're very, very afraid of retaliation by this president. Very afraid. Just thought I'd pass that on. Chastity in Texas?
Hey, I was wondering if you think that Trump is going to turn the United States into authoritarian type of government.
Yes.
That's scary.
Yes, I think he's already done that. He says that he's not going to have press briefings. He won't be doing those press briefings in the White House briefing room. And he's going to attack. Well, he's already attacked the media. They're very good at voter suppression. Then, of course, he wants punishment for people who burn the flag, which means free speech is under attack. God only knows if he's, if he's going to go and loosen the libel laws like he said he was going to, so that if anybody disagrees with him or says anything bad about him, then, they'll be prosecuted. Yeah, I do. I think he's an authoritarian, and I think he worships authoritarians, and it's going to be backed up by military might. And we know that because if you look in the homework, I think it was yesterday or the day before, all this surplus army, all this, the MRAPs and the airplanes, all being given to the local sheriffs. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.